Because I give myself my own haircuts. If I was ambidextrous, I would still be doing. The problem is I'm not left-handed, so I can do this side, but I can't do the right side. And then that's why I go to the hairdresser, and then she cuts it longer, and I have to go home and cut it on the right side. It's insane. Hey, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Erin Explains, the show where my friend Erin explains something to me, and today you're going to be explaining what?
Poptimism.
Poptimism. And before we start, we should tell people, stick around to the end, because we're going to be asking you to explain something. So no skipping out after 2 minutes to write a comment about how we didn't talk about something that we talked about at a 4-minute mark and you never watched. Like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Why are you watching this video and not clicking the like button? It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps the channel out, and you don't even have to watch the rest of the video. You don't have to ever watch a video again. Just click the like button. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to cost you an arm or a leg. You just click it. Click it! So, Poptimism.
Yes.
I think this is the perfect quote to start our Poptimism discussion. This was a comment from last week's video on Oasis. From somebody called Mr. Peckerhead. Scrufflepeck.
Okay.
What a load of drivel. These two are lacking in intelligence, and her opinions about Oasis are laughably wrong. This was left after 3.5 minutes of watching a 60-minute video. Now explain Poptimism.
Okay, so the reason why we're talking about Poptimism is because not only is it the lead-up week to Taylor Swift's release of Life of a Showgirl.
Very exciting.
Very exciting. Happening next weekend. And arguably, Taylor Swift is probably the most popular artist in the world right now, arguably. Yeah. So there has been also in the past few weeks, and especially just last week, sort of some discussion around music criticism, and that's led to kind of the resurfacing of discourse around Poptimism.
Okay.
And this concept of Poptimism, if I asked you, what do you think, if I say the word Poptimism, what do you think it is?
I think it's not being able to criticize something, and you have to be positive about something. And if you criticize something, like, you get those kind of responses. What a load of drivel!
Yes. Yeah, I mean, kind of.
I'm assuming this guy was English, because he was drivel. I've never been called drivel in my life. Kind of gave me a high, to be perfectly honest, but
yes. So
it would be that. That's
in the Oasis video, we talked about Califistane's article.
And you pronounced it right.
I did pronounce it right.
Got it right.
How do you pronounce?
Pronouncenames.com. Khalifa.
I did additional research. Anyways, his article in The New Yorker, essentially talking about why there aren't any negative reviews anymore. And that kind of was sort of playing into this idea of having to be positive about...
Because you got, not on the video, but on your Substack, you got attacked for criticizing the venue, which Oasis did not build and criticize themselves.
Yes, exactly. I mean, so this sort of like push towards optimism, and then on September 25th, Carl Wilson, who's a Canadian music writer. Full disclosure, I know Carl personally, and I've presented on panels with Carl, and I do have a huge amount of respect for what he does as a music critic, journalist, and writer.
I don't know him from a hole in a wall.
He wrote a book in 2007, part of the Bloomsbury Publishing's 33 1/3 series, which are small books about albums. Okay. And so each one of them focuses, hence 33 1/3, each one focuses on an album. And he focused on Celine Dion's Let's Talk About Love, and it was subtitled Journey to the End of Taste. And so he kind of talked about this sort of resistance he had as a music critic to Celine Dion's music, this idea that it was cheesy, or in Quebecois French, you might use the term quitaine, this kind of corny type of thing, and sort of dealing with this idea of it being in bad taste and kind of talking about taste writ large. And part of that discussion is this divide between what is come to be called Poptimism and another term, which is Rockism. Now, if I ask you what you think Rockism is, what do you think Rockism is?
Rockism?
If we think of an ism as an ideology, so it's
that sounds like this, like slurs against rock stars? What?
No, Rockism is this kind of idea that if you're a rockist, you kind of believe that traditional rock and roll is sort of the norm, is the normative form of good popular music.
Okay.
It came originally out of the UK, and I would recommend reading Carl Wilson's essay. In addition to him having written the book about Celine Dion and sort of discussing these issues of taste, he on September 25th in Slate came out with this huge, extensive essay on Poptimism and Rockism, and sort of talking about these issues.
Okay.
So I'm kind of just summarizing this.
Okay.
But so Rockism is this idea of this belief that rock and roll really is the pinnacle of popular music, and this sense that newer music, say post 1980s, whether it's kind of like R&B or whether it's sort of more poppy kind of music, hip hop, for instance, etc., is not as good. They don't like any of it.
I know some of these people.
Yes, exactly. So that's this kind of like rockist tendency.
Okay.
And so then you have...
and the truth is this is something I've been saying the last few years as I've gotten a little bit older and become less judgmental, like these rockists would be. There is no empirical measure of taste. Taste isn't it's a personal, emotional response. You like something, you don't like something.
And I think that Poptimism kind of speaks to this. There's a number of people that sort of have kind of been seen as sort of the people who have coined the term or the concept. Khalifa Sanae is one of them. A guy named Simon Reynolds, who's a UK-based longtime music critic, has written a number of books, also has been involved in this. The real discussion of Poptimism is sort of, I might say, it's sort of a millennial to early aughts, mid-aughts discussion.
Okay.
You had a number of people, Simon Reynolds, Mark Fisher, who's also famous for having written Capitalist Realism. He had a very famous blog called K-Punk. There was a message board, which I was involved in the early 2000s, called ILX, I Love Music, and there were lots of discussions about Poptimism on there. A guy named Tom Ewing, who was really sort of gave birth to the I Love Music message board. He had a blog called Freaky Trigger. He had a DJ night in London called Poptimism. Anyways, there's this huge kind of group of people who were discussing these issues in the early 2000s and to mid 2000s, all about this sense of kind of giving pop its due. There's this sort of sense now that the message of Poptimism was we should be being more serious about pop than about rock, but really it kind of comes down to, we should be taking pop music as seriously as we do other types of music. That there's like a reason to take these things seriously. Now, I think that one of the things that's interesting is that all of these people that I've named, they're all men, predominantly white dudes, online arguing about what music is legit, what music is the most important.
Right.
I mean, there were other people like Robin James, Maura Johnston, I think they need to be name checked, who are discussing this, and even beyond that, there's a lot of people who have discussed this. There's a pop music conference where journalists and academics get together and talk about these kinds of things. It happens once a year. I've been many times. It's a huge nerd fest for people who love to talk about this stuff.
Right.
Yes, and I think that, like, for me, the big issue here starts to come up in terms more recently, having to do not with pop music being seen as significant as rock music, but that it kind of moves into this situation where we have major pop stars who cannot be critiqued,
right.
like what you mentioned at the beginning. Like that there is this sense that
you're an idiot, you don't get it.
You don't
you're
get
a
it.
hater.
You're a hater. You can't. And in some ways, you're misogynist. You're racist. You have specific biases, and in a lot of ways, that's true. That's true for certain critics.
It can be.
It can be definitely true. But there is this sense that this poptimist desire to take pop music seriously and on its own terms, and as well as recognizing how it might fit into a canon of music.
Right.
Has then been sort of co-opted by corporate greed in order to demand that we appreciate certain artists who...
It's a way of deflecting criticism.
It's a way of deflecting criticism by saying that,
so it's all illegitimate. You just don't get it.
Yes. And so I kind of think that this,
which I think was literally one of the comments.
Yes.
Did we not get? These two just don't get it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think that a better question is, why are we so invested? Because this is a long discussion that's gone on for now far over a quarter century of discussion about rockism versus popism. Like, why are we so invested in these terms? Why are we so invested in these sort of hierarchies of taste? Right. And for myself,
to distract us from the Epstein files.
Maybe to distract us from a lot of things. But I think that for myself, I have had the lovely opportunity and privilege to live in two different societies that have completely different music industries. Right. I've lived in Quebec for most of my life, and I had the opportunity to live in Kingston, Jamaica for 4 years. Right. And living in Quebec, living in Jamaica, these are places that have totally independent music industries.
They're not trying to...
from the rest of the world.
Exactly. They're not trying to keep up with the rest of
sometimes they
North
do,
America,
but it's not. That's not the primary directive.
Right.
It's not the primary directive to do that. Yes, there's some obviously crossover. Huge example: Celine Dion, Bob Marley.
Right.
Perfect example of huge crossover successes, and there are other crossover successes that exist. But within these two sort of independent music industries, you have this situation where taste functions in a very different way.
Right.
In 2015, I wrote an article that sort of came out of the fact that people would always ask me, why is Air Supply and Michael Bolton and other artists like this so popular in Jamaica?
Right.
And when you look at certain types of music in Quebec, you have that term "kitaine," which means corny and cheesy or whatever. But there's a certain love for that on a level here in Quebec that I think is important. And
in Jamaica, is it considered corny, cheesy?
No,
It isn't.
no.
There's not an ironic.
No, there's not an ironic thing. Like it's not. There is as sort of my friend and really wonderful writer Kai Miller once said, in Jamaica there is no bad taste.
Right.
There's no such thing as bad taste. It's just the thing. If you like something, you like it, and that's why you can.
Maybe that's where I got my little saying from.
Yes.
It's probably from reading your article.
Maybe I don't know. But this idea of being in a space where you can go to a concert. I attended a concert in Jamaica where. The queen of dancehall, Lady Saw, who, if you know her music, you would know that it couldn't be more different than Michael Bolton. But there she was, front row, singing along to every word of Michael Bolton's music. So you have that kind of a situation.
You saw Peter Cetera.
I saw Peter Cetera in Jamaica. Right. Yes, I did. I saw Bobby Brown in Jamaica. I saw Celine Dion in Jamaica. I saw Dionne Warwick in Jamaica. I also saw all sorts of wonderful dancehall and reggae artists as well. Right. And who cover a lot of this type of music. And Air Supply is doing their 50th anniversary tour, and they're going to have one evening in Trinidad and Tobago, which I'm sure is going to be phenomenal. Yeah. So I feel that it's really what we should be talking about is not, like, is rockism dead? Is poptimism dead? It's, what are these discussions trying to do, and why are we so invested in legitimizing certain types of music and delegitimizing others? Right. Because I think when it comes down to that, we need to ask, like, what are the forces at play? And I do think that over the past week with some of these discussions, whether it's like Carl Wilson's encyclopedic kind of discussion of the development of popism and what it means, etc., which you really should read if you haven't, or whether it's people who are feeling a little bit concerned about the Taylor Swift popularity, right, and the engagement announcement, or people who are celebrating it. Like, why are people celebrating it? Why are people denigrating it? I think there's a lot of factors in there. And
why did that engagement announcement come out 6 weeks before a new album dropped? Coincidence.
Yes, I mean, so I think that really, what we need to do is we need to spend more time not, talking about, what perspective is right, but why we are having these conversations.
Okay.
So I guess in order to explain poptimism, I think that maybe that might not be the right question. The right question might be, why do we need to have it? Why do we need to have poptimism and rockism, and why can't we just have music and engage with each kind of music on its own terms?
Why can't we all just get along?
And you like it, you don't like it, you explain why you like it, you explain why you don't like it, somebody else says, no, this is why I like it, this is why I don't like it, and you don't need all of these labels.
Exactly.
All right. So I guess that explains poptimism, but it more explains why we should end poptimism.
Why we should
put an end to this all.
Put an end to this discourse.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm for that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So onwards to something that I would like explained.
This is for you out there.
Yes. So something that I cannot explain is why podcasts have such inconsistent sound quality in the podcast.
This is a pet peeve of yours. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because even a small podcast, I was once interviewed on a podcast called What Is This Music, hosted by Malcolm Fraser. Please link below. You don't need to listen to me. He interviews lots of really interesting people, much more interesting than me. But he had me recorded on my phone. Well, he was recording it on the other end because we were doing it over Zoom. And he was able to put that together. And so it sounded reasonable.
Right.
But
because you had matching audio.
Matching audio.
It might not have been the greatest audio, but it matched at least. It's not one person with a $5,000 mic and another person's in a wind tunnel.
Exactly. And I have been listening to some very, and I won't name them, but some very well-known podcasts, very popular podcasts, where there's this incredible differentiation in terms of the audio quality of the different individuals who are on the shows.
Right.
And I cannot explain why it has to be like this, because some really little podcasts that don't have a lot of money seem to be able to match the audio.
I know of at least one podcast that literally it's a small little podcast run by he's a physicist, he's an academic, he doesn't have a lot of money, and he literally mails a microphone to anybody he's going to interview with. Yeah. This is why he has a Patreon account. All of the money goes to getting a decent mic, so they both have the same mic and to record together. So if he can do it with next to no money.
Explain to me why.
He has no advertiser support, nothing. Yeah. How come these big, huge podcasts can't do it?
Exactly.
That's a good question.
Exactly.
So answer below. Leave a comment. Like, subscribe. You know what a great way to never watch videos again is click subscribe. And they'll never ever show up in your feed again. You actually have to go into your subscriber thing to actually see them. So if you don't like us, you don't want to see our faces pop up on little thumbnails, click subscribe.
Yeah.
Okay.